at what the China country means. China is a country in East Asia. It is the world's most populous country with a population of around 1.4 billion in 2019. It is the world's third or fourth largest country by area, governed by the Communist Party of China. The state exercises jurisdiction over 22 provinces, 5 autonomous regions, 4 direct controlled municipalities, which is Beijing, Tianjin, Shanghai, and Chongqing, and the special administrative regions of Hong Kong and Macau. Next, economy of China. The economy of China has in transition from a centrally planned system to a more market-oriented economy since 1978 or earlier. In 2019, China was ranked as the second largest in the world by nominal GDP. It is the largest in the world by purchasing power parity in 2017. China has the world's fastest growing major economy, with growth rate averaging 6% over 30 years. China is the world's largest manufacturing economy and exporter and importer of goods and service products. China has been known as a trading nation in the world and plays a prominent role in international trade. Historically, China was one of the world's foremost economic power for most of 2 millennia from the 1st until the 19th century. Macroeconomic recession. A recession is a business cycle contraction when there is a general decline in economic activity. Recession generally occurs when there is a widespread drop in spending and adverse demand shock. This may be triggered by various events such as financial crisis, an external trade shock, an adverse supply shock, the bursting of an economic bubble, or a large-scale natural or anthropogenic disaster such as COVID-19 pandemic. COVID-19 pandemic, also known as the coronavirus pandemic, is an ongoing pandemic of coronavirus disease 2019 caused by several acute respiratory syndrome. The outbreak was first identified in Wuhan, China in December 2019. Next, COVID-19 pandemic brings a recession in China. Big urban manufacturing and financial centers remain on at least partial lockdown. Migrant laborers are unable to return to work, and factories are unable to get raw material or ship their goods out reliably. Meanwhile, in the United States, they also face the same thing happening in China. Starting in March 2020, job loss was rapid. The economic impact was expected to hit smaller or newer business harder, as they typically have less financial cushion.
Okay, now we are going into the deep discussion for the country's problem. China is one of very few countries to escape the world financial crisis and experience only a mild slowdown in economic activity. In addition, it has been estimated that China was less affected by the financial meltdown than other countries due to its more closed financial system. But in the fall of 2007, just before the global crisis, the Chinese authorities tightened monetary policy and took steps to curtail an incipient property bubble. But when the global crisis intensified in the fall of 2008, the authorities reversed the economic course by launching policy of monetary easing in order to offset the additional drag on China's growth caused by the sharp slowdown in global trade. First, they cancelled lending quotas that had previously restricted the ability of banks to fully meet the demand for loans from their customers. Second, to ensure that a sufficient supply of funds would be available to meet this demand, the government repeatedly reduced the share of deposits that banks had to place with the central bank. Banks were not necessarily forced to expand their lending in 2009, as has often been asserted. It was in their economic self-interest to do so, since the interest rate that they could charge on loan was several times what they earned either on funds they were required to place with the central bank or on funds lent in the interbank market. At the end of 2019, the COVID-19 outbreak has severely weakened China's first quarter economic performance. Domestically, the outcome of the government policy effort remains unclear as the government aims to strike a balance between two often contradicting objectives, as that China's economy has to encounter three big challenges in 2020. First, the outbreak will severely affect the world economy and pose additional challenges on China's economy. It hopes to effectively contain the spread of the outbreak and prevent a possible second wave, while also trying to encourage the business resumption and sustain economic activities. Second, there is the risk of resurgence of the virus outbreak, either to imported cases or transmission through asymptomatic carriers of the virus. The possibility of second wave from imported cases is rising. As the spread outside China has become serious, externally the extent of the COVID-19 outbreak also remains uncertain as the spread continues to unfold. Its likely devastating impact on the world economy will hurt China's economy significantly through lower demand for Chinese products and by disrupting global supply chains, which China's economy is deeply embedded in, heavily dependent upon. Third, a prolonged depression in the global economy may trigger a new wave of production configuration. Economic hardship may reinforce protectionist tendencies worldwide. As the world's largest exporters and as important link in global supply chains, the Chinese economy is severely affected by such trends. In retrospect, the Chinese government's stringent measures were effective in slowing the spread of the virus. However, consumers' consumption during Chinese Lunar New Year holiday was largely gone due to the fear of contracting the disease and the many restrictive measures imposed. Although the official holidays ended on 10 February, business resumption did not take place until early March and has since been slow and partial, meaning that businesses reopened without much production or transaction activities. This is due to several factors, including logistic bottleneck to ensure input for production, shortages in workers due to transportation and other restrictions, and difficulty in obtaining required supplies to satisfy government anti-epidemic requirements for reopening business. In policy research issued in late March, they projected a 10% decrease in China's first quarter economy compared to that 2019.
Okay guys, now I want to tell you about effect to people and country. Okay, the first effect is older persons. Older persons are particularly susceptible to the risk of infection from COVID-19, especially those with chronic health conditions such as hypertension, cardiovascular disease, and diabetes. Older persons are not just struggling with greater health risks but are also likely to be less capable of supporting themselves in isolation. Although social distancing is necessary to reduce the spread of the disease, if not implemented correctly, such measures can also lead to increased social isolation of older persons at a time when they may be at most need of support. Okay, the second point is person with disabilities. Even at the best of times, persons with disabilities face challenges in accessing healthcare services due to lack of ability, accessibility, affordability, as well as stigma and discrimination. The risk of infection from COVID-19 for persons with disabilities are compounded by other issues which warrant specific action. Disruption of services and support, pre-existing health conditions in some cases which leave them more at risk of developing serious illness or dying, being excluded from health information and mainstream health provision, living in a world where accessibility is often limited and where barriers to goods and services are a challenge, and being disproportionately more likely to live in institutional setting. Okay, now it's third effect. Many governments have called on York to embrace the effort to protect themselves and the overall population. York are also in a position to help those who are most vulnerable and to aid in increasing public health social awareness campaign among their communities. Thus, York are critical to limiting the virus spread and in its impact on public health, society, and the economy at large. In terms of employment, York are disproportionately unemployed, and those who are employed often work in the formal economy or gig economy on precarious contracts or in the service sector of the economy that are likely to be severely affected by COVID-19. More than 1 billion Yao are now no longer physically in school after the closure of schools and universities across many jurisdictions. The disruption in education and learning could have medium and long-term consequences on the quality of education. Though the efforts made by teachers, school administration, local and national government to cope with the unprecedented circumstance to the best of their ability should be recognized. Now is a fourth effect. Effect on China gross domestic product. The contraction in January and February data implies negative 1Q gross domestic product growth. Morgan Stanley economist Robin Zing, Zaipeng Chai and Jenny Zhang said in a note Monday, the weakness has likely extended into March despite gradual production resumption as the number of online job listings shrank further by 4.6% in the first 2 weeks of March month-over-month. They said the additional pressure on the economy from the virus spread overseas will likely make it even more difficult for China to achieve its gross domestic product growth target. The annual meeting for policy announcing the figure has been postponed as a result of the virus, but officials have maintained that the country is still on pace for reaching its goal.
Okay, now we move to the how China overcome the recession due to coronavirus outbreak using monetary policy. As we know, monetary policy will increase money supply in the economy. So, one of the ways China can overcome the recession using monetary policy is to set specific growth targets for year 2020. On 13 March, in response to the global financial panic, the central bank cut the targeted reserve requirement ratio by 0.5 to 1 percentage points, which released $550 billion of long-term funds. The Central Bank of China has taken a relatively simple action. They're reducing their reserve requirement for banks that would allow the public and businessmen to borrow an additional $80 billion for struggling business. This has prompted banks to offer more loans to public and businessmen. The People's Bank of China also conducted a medium-term lending facility (MLF) operation of 100 billion yuan, cutting the MLF rate by 20 BPS on 15 April. On the same day, it lowered the deposit reserve requirement ratio by 0.5% of rural financial institutions and urban commercial banks operating only in provincial administrative areas, implementing the first phase of its policy announced on 3 April. Besides, China's central bank also has already loosened its monetary and credit stance to help fight the virus, including 1.8 trillion yuan to help virus hit small businesses. In addition, trillions yuan of liquidity injected to safeguard the financial markets, 7.1 trillion yuan of commercial bank loans is in the first quarter, as well as multiple rate cuts to lower the cost of the real economy. Next, China's central bank also indicated that they would reduce interest rate. Mainly, the PBOC reduces the interest rate on 7-day reverse repurchase agreement to 2.2% from 2.4% when it injected 50 billion yuan into the banking system. The cut is the largest since year 2015. In doing so, China's central bank will encourage consumers to save less and encourage them to increase purchases of goods and services. Last but not least, China also has focused on helping companies to keep paying their workers.
They will support the state-owned banking sector to lend another $200 billion to business, particularly smaller ones. Local governments have also issued 150 billion bonds so far this year to pay contractors for the construction of roads, bridges, and other projects. Okay, so that's all from me. Thank you for watching, and we also have provided the references in the description box below. Thank you.